Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by. Welcome to the 2018 ACC Coaches Conference Call. During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode. Afterwards, we'll conduct a question-and-answer session. At that time, if you have a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. If at any time during the conference you need to reach an operator, please press *0. As a reminder, this call is being recorded Monday, January 15th, 2018. I'd now like to turn the call over to Mr. Brian Morrison. Please go ahead.
Thank you, and I'd like to welcome everybody to today's basketball teleconference. We'll get things started with Clemson head basketball coach Brennan, whose Tigers will be at North Carolina tomorrow night with a 7 o'clock tip and the game shown on the Regional Sports Network. Coach, if you could, a few comments about your team, and we'll open for questions.
Yeah, coming off a very good win over the weekend against Miami. Obviously, an incredibly quick turnaround after the 9 o'clock game at NC State. So really proud of the way our guys were able to be focused and the way they played. We shot the ball extremely well in the game, and I thought defensively we were really good in spurts, and so it was a great bounce back win for us. And obviously another quick turnaround here in traveling back up to the Triangle to play North Carolina here tomorrow night.
We open for questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. You will hear a 3-tone prompt to acknowledge your request. If your question has been answered and you'd like to withdraw your registration, please press the 1 followed by the 3. If you're using a speakerphone, please lift your handset before entering your request. Once again, to register a question, press 1-4 on your telephone keypad. And our first question comes from the line of Al Featherton of Access Sports. Please go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Good morning.
Morning, Al.
I wanted to ask you about Mark Donnell. He had 2 pretty good games last week. His 2 best scoring games of the season. Can you talk about his play and his development, and has his play really taken a jump, or is that just happenstance?
Well, I think Mark's a good player. He's a great young man and been a wonderful addition to our team. I think comes from a winning program at Michigan. They happen to have a bunch of guys at his spot, and so I think it was just in his best interest to kind of move on. And he knew when he came here that he was going to share some time with Eli, and he's been terrific. He's an unbelievable teammate and one of the most liked guys on our team. I mean, he just has fit in tremendously well. I think the longer the season goes, I think he gets a little more comfortable with how we do things, especially offensively. Obviously, he's been wired to the Michigan way of doing things for a long time. We do some things differently, and I think he's really just kind of loosened up, and he's always been a guy that can make threes and shoot the ball, and happened to find a couple open shots in the last couple games. But he gives us a lot defensively. He's a very physical defender, very good position defender, just a mature guy that's been through a lot of big games and been in a lot of big games, and I think he's a guy that's very comfortable playing at this level.
Thank you, Coach.
Welcome.
Our next question comes from the line of Mr. Bill Haas of Greensboro. Please go ahead.
Hey, Mark. Mark. Good grief.
We're just talking.
Brad, I think it is. But Coach.
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. If a little tongue-tied.
I've been called worse. Don't worry about it.
What are the kinds of things that your team, not just any team, but your team needs to do to go in and beat North Carolina? What's important for your guys?
It's not any different than it is almost any year. It's just remarkable how Roy gets them to be one of the best rebounding teams, if not the best rebounding team in the country every year. And they're not as big this year as they've been. They've got young, big players, and they're still plus 12 on the boards. It's just remarkable. He gets them to play so hard, and they make an unbelievable commitment to it. And so rebounding is huge every time you play them. Same thing with transition. It's the same every year, and it's for every team. If you can't get back and get them slowed down and stopped, you're going to have a hard time beating them. And I think this year's team, while they're not as big and strong physically, maybe inside as they've been, obviously with the older players, I think they can really spread you and shoot you. I think Joel Berry and Kenny Williams, and I know Cameron Johnson hasn't shot it well yet, but he's an outstanding shooter that's going to break out here really soon. And then obviously Luke May, young man I recruited a long time, is an outstanding shooter. So I think maybe one of the new differences with their team is they're just a high-level three-point shooting team now as well. So defending the three, I think, can be significant. And then obviously you're probably going to have to make some threes against them. You're going to have a good shooting night, take care of the ball. It's not anything specific to Clemson as it is to just playing well-coached North Carolina teams year in and year out.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of David Teal of Daily Press. Please proceed with the question.
Good morning, Brad. You mentioned playing well defensively in spurts against Miami, but the numbers would indicate that this team has the potential to be your best defensive team at Clemson. Do you agree with the numbers? And if so, why or whom has made this an effective defensive team?
Yeah, I don't know if we're as good as a couple of the teams I coached. I thought our team with KJ McDaniel and Jajuan was a young player, and Landry Noko, I thought those guys were better than this team defensively. Obviously couldn't score as well as this team, but I think those guys are better individual defenders, and their athleticism and all those things were remarkable. So I don't know that we're at that level, but I do think we have a chance to be a good defensive team. We are older. I think as much as anything is just we got the attention of this team and mostly the older players on this team because of some of our inadequacies last year. And I think we, sometimes you got to get away from it before you can truly understand it. It wasn't like we didn't try to coach it last year or emphasize it, or we weren't doing it well. We didn't talk about it, but for whatever reason, we've done a better job with this team, and this team has done a better job of accepting the coaching of it and trying to really do what the coaches ask. And I think we do have some experience, some older players, and so when we make some adjustments game to game or within games, I think these guys have done a really good job of trying to do that, and I think that's been helpful. And certainly a lot of the credit for that goes to Dante Grantham and Gabe DeVoe, some of our older players, for really leading this team and trying to get everybody in the program to buy into what it is that helps us win.
Our next question comes from the line of Mike Barber of the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Please proceed with your question.
Morning, Coach. You mentioned Kenny Williams. I'm curious, as you prepare for Carolina, what are his strong suits? What does he do well for them?
Fantastic shooter and a good defender. I think probably a tremendous athlete. I mean, I think he's a really good player. They just have so many there that sometimes you can get lost in the shuffle, but he shoots a high percentage, both in twos and threes, even though he's known as a three-point shooter, and he's an outstanding one. I know he's somewhere over 40%, but he also makes his twos. He's a very efficient player. I don't think he makes a lot of mistakes. His assist turnover numbers are usually very good. I think he's a very, very good player that maybe isn't talked about as much because they just have so many of them. But his numbers speak to how efficient he is. Again, kind of known as a shooter, but he has very good assist turnover numbers. He has good 2-point field goal numbers. Very good athlete, defends. I think he's a terrific player.
Perfect. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next question comes from the line of Christopher Heidel of Herb FM Sports Radio, Baltimore. Please proceed with the question.
Hi, Coach Brad. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Talk about you have a from the state of Maryland on your roster named Reed. Just talk about his development and how he's doing this year for you guys.
Yeah, Marquis is a very good player. Just scoring mentality, but a guy who's really improved in terms of his assists. I think that's an area where he's improving. he's gotten bigger and stronger since he came here. He obviously had a great first year at Robert Morris and transferred to our place and has done a good job of getting in the weight room and getting bigger and stronger. He's become a much better defender through the course of his career here. He's gotten to be pretty good on the ball, and some of it just being stronger and then just being in our system for a couple of years and really just working at it because he hadn't played much in his first year at Robert Morris. They were primarily a zone team. But he can score in a lot of ways. He can shoot threes. He's a very good free throw shooter. He gets it into the basket area, and he has one of those unique abilities to kind of be creative as a scorer in terms of making layups and floaters and runners. And he makes a lot of shots that you really don't coach, that he just is a shot maker. So he's been really a fun kid to coach, a guy who's worked really hard and seen some really good improvement in his game all around since he's been at Clemson.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck tomorrow night.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, Brad, Dad takes care of you for today, and we'll hear from you again next week.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
All right, Brad, thank you. We have with us now Georgia Tech head basketball coach Josh Pastner, whose Yellow Jackets will host Virginia on Thursday. The game shown on the ACC network with an 8 o'clock tip. Coach, if you could, a few comments about your team, and we'll open it for questions.
Yeah, we had a good win on Saturday. You know, on the road, anytime you can win on the road, it's always a great thing. And, you know, as I said, we've been playing better since post-Christmas. Unfortunately, the NC2A won't not count the games pre-Christmas, but if we could really be judged on post-Christmas, we're more of a, we're healthy, we're getting better as a team. Pre-Christmas we just had played so many lineups and felt like it was 7 different teams. And since we've been able to get healthy and been able to practice as a group, we've gotten better. We still have a long way to go, but we've got a tough game Thursday against, first place Virginia, a team that's very well coached and great players, and then obviously Saturday at North Carolina. So really a tough week for us, but we just got to keep improving and keep getting better.
And we open it for questions for Coach Pastner.
Thank you. Once again, to register a question, press 1-4 on your telephone keypad. And our next question comes from the line of Stan Autry of Macon Telegraph. Please proceed with the question.
Hey, Josh. A couple weeks ago, you moved Ben outside the arc on your offense. What was your thinking there, and what have the benefits been from that move?
Yeah, hey, Stan. Part of it is, Ben's starting to get better from where he was last year, at least on the defensive end. His mobility is getting back to where it was. But offensively, we need to get him going more. He hasn't shot a great percentage yet on especially where he was last season. So part of it's obviously been the injury, and it's just taken him a while to get back. But he's getting back to who he was defensively. We now need to get him back to who he was offensively, and that will happen. And AD Abdullah Gay has improved. He's gotten better. He's gotten better and better and better. So we had to just find a way to make sure we can, play with both on the floor at the same time, Stan.
And that move, you're saying, also benefited AD and is giving him more confidence, more ability on to do some things.
Yeah, I think it's benefited AD, and I think it's benefited Ben in some areas. He just it can really benefit if he gets going offensively. He's had a beautiful jump shot and a beautiful stroke. He hasn't shot it as well this year since the injury, so we just need to get him back to that. But we also want to get him by the hoop as well too, because he's effective at both places. I'm speaking on Ben Lammer. So, we're just trying to mix and match and make the right, try to put the guys in positions to succeed the best that we can.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Dan.
Our next question comes from the line of Mike Barber of the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Please proceed.
Morning, Coach. I'm curious, as you look at Virginia, do you identify a focal point of their offense? Is there something that you say, okay, we have to take away the threes of Guy and Jerome or the penetration of Hall because they get such varied scoring?
Yeah, I mean, look, Virginia's, they're going to be number 2 in the country when the polls come out today. You don't get to number 2 unless you're really, really good. And, you mentioned, Guy and Jerome, but heck, Hall, I think last night, at one time he was 3 for 3 from 3-point range. I don't know if he ended up 4 for 4. I didn't have the final box score in front of me, but, he can shoot the ball. And then Isaiah Wilkins hit a 3 yesterday or got a 4-point play on one of them. So they're just very balanced. And more than just having to stop them, because obviously they're very talented and they're a very good basketball team. I think more than any individual person, they're a very good team. Numbers speak for themselves. They're very hard to score against, and so you've got to find ways to be able to score against them. And but they are just a great basketball team. They've got obviously good individual players, but Tony has done a phenomenal job on, as he always has, on building them into a collection of a great team, a great unit.
When you look at that defense, they're forcing more turnovers and blocking a little more shots at the rim this year. What are those two elements? What do they come from, and what do they add to their success?
Well, I think, they're again, only Tony would be able to speak on this, but I think even from Washington State to Virginia, I think this is one of his most long and athletic teams from an outside observer. So I think they're really athletic. Obviously, Jack Salt's just, he's physical and he's a very good athlete, but they've got multiple athletes there in the front court, and they're long. So, I would possibly venture to say from an outside perspective that this could be Tony's most athletic and long team as a head coach.
Great, thank you.
Yep, thanks, man.
Our next question comes from the line of Andrew Doty of Hero Sports. Please proceed with the question.
Hey, Coach. You're entering one of the toughest stretches of any program in the country this season with Virginia, UNC, Florida State, and Clemson coming up over the next 10 or 11 days. You're riding a 4-game winning streak, and you said you're finally healthy, you're practicing together, you're playing well. Do you think that, if there is any good time to hit a stretch like this, you're hitting at the right time? And what's the general mindset entering these next couple of weeks?
Well, look, you could have a 4-game winning streak in the ACC, or a 4-game winning streak like we have, and have won 3 straight in the ACC. And like you said, 11 days from now, we could have lost 4 in a row. And I would say that we're playing 4 unbelievable teams, and so that's just the ACC. And are we playing the best we've played for this year? Are we getting better? Are we improving? Absolutely. But this league is just, there's no nights off. It's the best league in the country. And, you could, as fast as you could win a bunch in a row, you could also as fast lose a bunch in a row just because the league is that good. So we're not in a position where we can look past even the 11 days from now. We're about only as good as one day at a time. And then, when that stretch you mentioned is over, it's not like you relax. Think of the games coming back after that. There's just no nights off in this league. It's just everyone's very, very good. Everyone's very well coached, and everyone's got very good players.
Our next question comes from the line of Christopher Heidel of Herb FM Sports Radio, Baltimore. Please proceed.
Hi, Chris. Josh, how you doing?
What's up, Christopher?
Just talk about your team does really well at home. The last couple games I've watched against Miami and also against Notre Dame. Is that something that you are happy about coming into this game against a tough Virginia squad?
Well, we've really the reason we've done well at home, the credit gets to the student section has been great. The fans have been great. They've really bought in. When I got the job, I went on the speakers tour to any group that you could think of to speak, to try to sell the program and generate some interest, to try to bring some people in the arena, and they really have caught on. And then our guys have played, well enough, hard enough to have the fans buy in. And so the students have been great. The student section's been, as I mentioned, been great. The fans have been awesome. So they've really given us a great lift. We know we'll have a great crowd on Thursday. and deservedly so. I mean, you're playing the number 2 team in the country, but regardless of all that being said, you still got to put the ball in the basket, and we have to defend. So it's great to have a home court advantage, but however, the opponents that we're playing in the ACC, it's just you got to have the home court advantage from the crowd, but then you also got to be able to produce on the floor by putting the ball in the basket, and that's easier said than done.
That's true.
Okay, Coach, thanks for taking time being with us today, and we'll hear from you again next week.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
All right, Josh, you take care. We have with us now NC State head basketball coach Kevin Keats, whose Wolfpack will host Wake Forest on Thursday, and the game shown on the ACC network with an 8 o'clock tip. Coach, if you could, a few comments about your team, then we'll open for questions.
Well, it's been a very good, a kind of good, crazy week for us. Obviously, we're coming off, a couple good wins where in our last 2 or 3 games where we played well at home versus Duke, and then obviously followed that game up with another very good win against Clemson. And then as of yesterday, we're on the road, and I thought we ran into a very good Virginia team at home and ended up losing that game. So obviously we got to pick the pieces up and get prepared for Wake Forest on Thursday.
We open it for questions for Coach Keats.
Ladies and gentlemen, to register a question, press 1-4 on your telephone keypad. And our first question comes from the line of Al Featherton of Access Sports. Please proceed with your question.
Hey, Coach. I wanted to ask you, I know it's early, not quite a third of the season done in the conference, but already home teams are winning at a historic rate. You guys are 2-0 at home and 0-3 on the road in the league. Is there a reason the home road differential is so big this year?
Well, I think it's certainly obviously in the ACC there's some great home venues and unbelievable crowds, and I think players today, they really feel comfortable playing at home. Some of that I think it's too early to really determine. I would say once we're halfway through the conference schedule, you can look at it a little bit more, but right now I think everybody has unbalanced schedules. For us, we have started off obviously playing 3 road games and 2 home games, and then certainly some other guys haven't had it that way, so it's a little bit different. But I think our kids feel comfortable being at home, especially us. I think we play better at home, just like most teams. But I think you'll get the most benefit out of it if you look at it probably halfway through the season, conference season, to be able to look back at it and see what it is at that time.
I noticed watching you guys in the early season, there were some games at home that didn't bring out much of a crowd and everything, but hasn't it been different for the 2 conference games? Weren't those 2 really good home environments?
Well, they were great home environments, and obviously it's a little different. As we always say, when you're playing some of the non-conference teams that our fans may not be as familiar with. Obviously, as a coach, you would love for it to be packed in every game that you play. But I think when you come and obviously you're playing in the ACC, there's so many familiar teams and rivalries. And, when you look at us, just where we're located at, obviously it started off by us playing Duke. And there was no doubt in my mind that game was going to be a sellout, and then followed up with, Clemson, who was number 19 at the time. But I just think, for the fans, they can identify with most of the ACC teams.
Coach, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Mike Barber of the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Please proceed with the question.
Good morning, Kevin. I want to ask about one of your assistants, James Johnson. What was your connection with JJ that brought him to your staff, and what does he add to your team?
Well, first of all, James Johnson is a tremendous basketball coach. He's a great recruiter. He's an X and O guy. He's great with our players. James and I played college basketball together at Ferrum College, and he's been a dear friend to me and my family for a lot of years. And when I took the job and he was available, his experience was very valuable to me. Obviously, working at, high major level for a long time, and then being in the ACC and also being a head coach in the ACC, it was very important to me, and really excited that I have him on my staff.
What do you think JJ took from his experience at Virginia Tech and the 2 seasons he was the head coach there?
Well, I think what was unfortunate about James' situation, and he and I, obviously we stayed in contact during that time, and I don't think he was actually given enough time. When you look at it, anytime you take over a program, they only gave the guy 2 years to be able to get his own players in and try to impact the program in his way. But I think he's learned, obviously, that, obviously this business can be tough at times, and that, you've got to work every day like it's your last day, and you got to put a lot of hard work into it and try to recruit and try to win some games.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Mr. Bill Haas of Greensboro. Please proceed with the question.
Yeah, Coach, Alaric Freeman had a tough day in Charlottesville. Was that just one of those games that comes along, or what did Virginia do to sort of take him away from your offense?
Well, when you look at the Virginia team, especially at home, they've done a tremendous job just in the entire year of kind of taking out your leading scorer. And, I wouldn't say it was so much Al Freeman. I thought they did a tremendous job of really, making things tough for us. Virginia's a very good basketball team. They're a tremendous defensive team because as a group, as a team, they really can defend you. But what they do have is, and what people don't give them credit for, is they've got a bunch of guys who could individually make things tough for you on any given night. So I want to say I'll give Virginia's defense a lot of credit for Al not playing well. And, certainly we hope that we can get him back and get him bounced back to play well on Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Sam Evers of the Rocky Mount Telegram. Please proceed with the question.
Hey, Coach, and just looking at the schedule, I think you guys are, in the midst of a 7-game stretch where 5 teams are ranked, and some of them, really highly ranked. So I was just wondering if you, obviously you prepare for this stuff as a first-time ACC head coach, but just kind of, what it's like for you, going through that grind for the first time, and what the preparation process has been like to have a ranked team pretty much every other game.
Well, it's this is what I signed up for. It's the ACC,
yeah.
And it's excitement. I'm just coming out of a staff meeting, and we talked about that. Our 5 games that we opened the season up against so far have been, they've been brutal. When you talk about, you got to go to Clemson, who has obviously had played unbelievable in a non-conference, and then go to Notre Dame, who's also was ranked at the time, and then you turn around and, by the way, your home games are against number 2 Duke and number 19 Clemson, and then you turn around and go to number 3 Virginia. That's tough as it gets, but that's just not us. That's everybody in the conference. At some point, everybody's going to play the conference schedule. But it's been exciting for me because obviously I get a chance to go around the league and see where we're measuring up against the other teams and where we need to go in the future as we try to build this program up.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that's kind of the same with the freshman guys in your team? It's kind of a new and exciting thing for them to be able to experience that?
Oh, absolutely. I'm excited that, obviously Braxton Beverly and LeVar Batts have the opportunity to play as a freshman when you're playing against so many good teams in this league. And, that experience that they get is only going to help us. Obviously as they grow and become sophomores, it'll be better for us at the end.
Okay, Coach, thanks for taking time being with us today, and we'll hear from you again next week.
Thank you.
Okay, Kim, thank you. We have with us now Pitt head coach Kevin Stallings, whose Panthers will be at Syracuse on Tuesday. The game shown on the Regional Sports Network with a 9 o'clock tip. Coach, if you could, a few comments about your team, then we'll open it for questions.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah, we were not very good the last time out, and we certainly are going to have to be a lot better than that to have a chance for any success in this league. And we're a group that's growing. Sometimes it feels like we're growing rapidly, and then sometimes it feels like our growth slows down a little bit. But they continue to be a good group to coach, and despite the struggles, and obviously we are hopeful of improving and getting better to the point to where we can win and have some success. And obviously players need to have success in order for their confidence to grow, and that's kind of where we're at right now. We're in search of trying to knock that door down so we can get some positive mojo, if you will, to build on and to work from.
And we open for questions for Coach Stallings.
Ladies and gentlemen, to register a question, press 1-4 on your telephone keypad. And our first question comes from the line of Al Featherton of Access Sports. Please proceed with your question.
Hey, Coach. Good morning. I wanted to ask you, for several games there, you started 5 freshmen, which obviously is pretty rare. Was that to make a statement or something, or were they just the best 5 available at that point?
No, we're not trying to make any statements. It was just the guys that had sort of played the best, and I felt like we're the most deserving to start, and so no, we're just in search of trying to play the guys that give us the best minutes, and we've had a lot of different starting lineups, and I think that's reflective of the fact that we probably have had quite a bit of inconsistencies from our performance and as it pertains to individuals, and so we're just going to try to give everybody that warrants an opportunity, and it's typically the same 8 or 9 guys play about the same amount of minutes, but no, we were not trying to make any sort of statement. It's just that freshmen comprise over half of our team, and so a number of them are going to start, and it just happened to be that we ended up with 5 out there one night. Maybe more than one night.
Can you talk about the idea that which of those freshmen have shown you the most progress or the most rapid acclimation to ACC basketball?
Well, I think Marcus Carr's probably been the most consistent. Parker Stewart has elevated his game since league play began, and Cam Davis has been pretty consistent. So those are the 3 guys that have been the most consistent. Shamil Stevenson has certainly had some very good moments and some good games. Consistency has been a little bit of an issue there, but all these guys have had times where they've done well. Obviously, one of the more difficult things for young players is to achieve consistency, and that's kind of what we're fighting for right now.
Coach, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Craig Meyer of Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Please proceed with your question.
What do you feel like, Kevin, has plagued you guys so much offensively here since conference play got started?
I think that it's our inability to get easy baskets, and not that you get a ton of easy baskets in this league, but I think that typically easy baskets come from being a dominant rebounding team, having a dominant inside presence, or maybe having a perimeter player that can create penetration or draw 2 defenders and then start making the game easier for other people on the court, a facilitator, if you will, and so we don't. Marcus has done a pretty good job of trying to facilitate some things, but we have yet to establish the inside game that we need in order to create some easy baskets. And so I think then what happens is that puts a lot of pressure on your jump shooting, and you struggle to come up with enough easy baskets, and then as you've seen, we're prone to going through scoring droughts, and so we have to continue to work our inside guys. We have to throw the ball in there more. We haven't thrown it in enough, and we've got to throw it in there more, and then when we get it in there, we got to score or get fouled.
Being 5 games in now, Kevin, how much do you feel like your guys, especially your younger guys, are still kind of acclimating to the difficulties of ACC play, playing some of these difficult teams night in and night out?
Well, I think that it's a difficult transition at best, and what we're missing, and what most of the really good teams in this league have. Are older guys to show the younger guys the way, and it's really a difficult proposition when you come into a league like this and you don't have someone. The best teams have really good veterans on them, and I realize that there are teams with freshmen. I mean, Duke obviously stands out that they have great freshmen, but you got Grayson Allen there who can tell those guys and show those guys the way, and unfortunately for us, the guy that could have done that for us is we lost to injury, and it's not just telling them through words. I'm really talking about telling them through demonstration of an example of how to play and how to think and what to do on the court at the right time and things like that. And so our guys are trying to learn on their own, if you will, without a lot of example to work from, and that's difficult at best. And so, but I commend them because they're continuing to fight hard, and they're continuing to fight together, and so again, it's not an easy thing, obviously, but it's just where we're at right now.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay.
Our next question comes from the line of Bill Haas of Greensboro. Please proceed with the question.
Kevin, I don't know if you've ever been through a start of a conference season quite like this, and how does it, if it does, change the way you coach or you approach your coaching any, as opposed to say
I think that I guess I feel like my job right now, the way for me to do my job the best is I have to continually try to teach these guys, and I think that's the key component here is teach, help them learn, and help them grow, and because we've got some good young players, we've got some guys who are going to be good players in this league, and so regardless of what happens in any given game or any stretch of games, I have to continue to try to be a voice of encouragement and positivity for them. Not be any less demanding, but a voice of encouragement and positivity, so that they can stay encouraged and energized, and hopefully see the growth that they're achieving, even when the results don't come.
Do you see in practices that they're maintaining their enthusiasm and being willing learners?
Yes, I think that's been maybe the best thing about this group so far is been their coachability, their willingness to continue to learn and be coached. So yeah, that part has been great, and again, I can only hope that it will continue to be. But like I said, it would be nice to knock down a win so that we could have something positive to work off of as well.
Thank you.
Okay, Coach, thanks for taking time being with us today, and we'll hear from you again next week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. We have with us now Virginia head basketball coach Tony Bennett, whose Cavaliers will be at Georgia Tech on Thursday in a game shown on the ACC network with an 8 o'clock tip. And as we do each week, we'll go right to questions for Coach Bennett.
Each week, Brian.
Here we go. It's a new one.
Ladies and gentlemen, to register a question, press 1-4 on your telephone keypad. And our first question comes from the line of David Teal of Daily Press. Please proceed.
Now I know why they want an open statement. It's just to fill some time, right? Right, Brian?
You asked
I'm sure you could.
Go ahead, David.
I'm sure you could enlighten us. Tony, how do you, aside from starters, how do you explain to reserves your philosophy about playing time? You know, Nigel, because of the matchup against Syracuse, doesn't get many minutes. He's used to playing almost 30 minutes a game last year at Rutgers. Clearly doesn't get that kind of run this season, but yet he comes in last night, 5 assists, no turnovers, and a big part of it. But just in general, with all your guys there on the bench, how do you handle it? And is that a difficult part of coaching these days?
I think it's the hardest part. One of the hardest parts for me is knowing how much guys want to play. I've said that before, and not being able to play everybody, the minutes that I'm sure they would like. But I think on the front end, it's very important in recruiting, and then when a player comes in your program, what you talk about. And that's one thing that we've tried to be consistent as a staff with, saying, I can't promise you minutes or starting spots or anything like that. If you perform well, if you're doing things well, there's going to be opportunities there. But I think at least when you do that on the front end, they can't come back and say, but Coach, this was promised to me or this was told to me. And I think most coaches probably operate like that. So we're very clear on the front end. This is going to be something you work towards, and it's a moving target. And but nothing will be promised that way. But also, I'm very how guys practice. That's real important. Their execution and practice, how they perform, gives them opportunities, and then the game itself dictates it, how they're playing in the game. And I don't always get it right. I tell them that sometimes you probably should have played more in this game, or maybe you should have played less. But there's a feel that you and your staff rely on. But again, the practice performance matters. Matchups in a game matter, and how other guys are playing and chemistry. So I think it's all those things. But I think it starts with on the front end what you have shared with the person you're bringing into your program, what the expectations are and how that works. And again, sometimes you say there's a wonderful opportunity, and there always is. But I think when you start promising spots and minutes, unless it's a no-brainer, I think that can be an issue.
How quickly was Nigel able to pick things up, being an older, more experienced player?
Well, Nigel, this is his third college, so he's had to learn some systems. But you definitely see some of the advantages of his game experience, being under good coaches, all those things. And then there's also where it is still new, and with Nigel, he came in because he finished up his undergrad work. He didn't get to come in until the latter part of the summer, so he wasn't there all summer. It was just the last I'm drawing a blank exactly if it was the last 4 weeks or whatever it was. So that stuff I think maybe set him back a little bit. And again, with Nigel, it was just, hey, here's an opportunity. We had some guys leaving, but there's no guarantees. This is just you're going to get what you earn, and we really want you, and we're excited about you. And I think last night you saw he really did a good job picking up the ball, pressuring it, and he's an important part of this. And I know that it's got to be frustrating. I told him after the Syracuse game, I get it. I know you're used to playing a lot, and he didn't show any problems, but I just know that's got to be hard to just keep staying ready. You don't know when it's going to be different. So last night was one of those situations where he helped us, and as he has in other games. But that's the reality of this level, and that's the challenging stuff as a coach. And again, to keep your players engaged, and perhaps why in the past we've lost players to transfer, I think, those are things that are real and every program battles with.
Our next question comes from the line of Mike Barber of the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Please proceed.
Morning, Coach. We've seen years in the past where you've had lineup changes either because of injuries or matchups and people in the lineup, out of the lineup. You've used the same starting lineup for every game this year. What does that say about your personnel, and what benefit does that have to the team and the coaches, and kind of what David was talking about, finding that rotation of playing time?
I think it's, I'm playing, though we're not the most experienced team, I'm playing our most experienced team. And that from last year with, again, the departures of last year's players, with London being gone and then the guys that transferred, Ty and Kyle got quality minutes, which was important last year. And, of course, Devin, Jack, and Isaiah, those are our three veterans who've played the most. So I just felt like that we have our most experienced team to start, and they understand, how to play, and then complemented by, a real nice group of guys coming off. Doesn't mean you couldn't go other ways, but they initially established that, and we've obviously it's gone well, and we stuck with it. But I think it is our most experienced team, even though guys are in, little different roles than they were last year that have some of the playing time. And I think that's why I've gone with that, and, why we stayed with it. But obviously we've got a real strong bench and rotation to follow.
And looking at the next one, what challenges does Georgia Tech present?
Well, they're obviously, like every team in this league, good at home, real good at home, and just they've done a real good job. I believe I don't know if it's 4-1 or 3-1, so they've played some good basketball, improved team. They got some experience, and now that they've got their guard back, who can really, really play, that's just bolstered their team. Again, they have an interior presence with Lamers, and they play a different. They'll mix in the zone that they play can be confusing without a doubt, and they know the game. They know what's going on as far as how they have to play to be successful and competitive, and that's something every team's fighting for, and they've established that offensively and defensively under Josh.
Thank you.
Yep.
Our next question comes from the line of Doug Dowdy of Roanoke Times. Please proceed with your question.
Tony, I believe that was a career high for turnovers for Ty last night. Was that any kind of learning tool for him, learning lesson?
I hope so, yeah. Ty's played so well for us and just had some careless turnovers. I haven't, gone through the game. I've watched the defense first, and I'll get through the offense here in a little bit. But it was more, I think, in the half court off some ball screens and a couple of decisions. But that's something, you're always trying to define what it is to be assertive and aggressive, but not getting careless with the ball. And that's so important for us to take care of the ball. And he has the ball in his hands a lot. So Ty's such a competitor. I'm sure he'll look at that, and we'll look at that, and try to keep improving. But he's usually very sure-handed. And last night there was a few uncharacteristic turnovers, but they also put good pressure on the ball, Doug, the way they got after it and jumped into some passing lanes. But 6 is certainly too many. Wait, I'm sorry. Did he have? Yeah, 6. So.
Well, he also had 6 assists.
Correct. Yeah, he made some very good plays, so that was there. But that's not the 1-to-1 ratio I like. So hopefully it's at least 2-to-1 or something a little higher than that.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of David Hall of the Virginian-Pilot. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. Congrats on last night. I asked Devin Hall about this, and I just wanted to get your take on it. You're very well known for your defense. What do you think you guys have figured out that other people haven't on defense, or what are you doing differently in practice from everybody else?
I don't think there's anything different. I think our players just are, when you have guys, like Devin, who has all the experience, and Jack and Isaiah, who are such good communicators, and really that's who they are. They really
have bought into trying to be as good as they can be individually and collectively defensively. That makes all the difference. And then there's no secret formula. And it's not like we spend 5 hours a day, playing defense. It's important to us. The guys understand that's how we can be as good as we can be as a team, to try to be stingy on defense and not let people get a lot of good looks, and you just keep kind of hammering away at it to get as good as you can, knowing it's not perfect. But I think the personnel has helped in their identity in that, and they're a good scrambling team. That's where, Isaiah, Jack, even Devin, and the other guys are smart. Ty and Kyle are smart, and the other players, DeAndre's given us a lift, Mamadi certainly, and then last night Nigel, the guys that have been playing. Some of the guys understand where they're at, and they've scrambled well. That's rim protection, scrambling. Sometimes personnel pieces make a big difference for how effective your team defense can be, and we've had a good combination so far this year. And look, the season's going to get tougher. I know that, going on the road more, so that'll be tested as we get into this part of the year and the teams we're playing and the places we're playing.
Okay, Tony, thanks for taking time being with us today, and we'll hear from you again next week, and we'll do your opening statement next week.
Hey, Brian, I'm happy to do one. I'd like I told you last time, so you let me know. You call the shots, all right?
Well, I got the teleconference. I got control.
All right.
See you later. Bye. We have with us now Wake Forest head basketball coach Danny Manning, whose Deacons will be at NC State this Thursday, and the game shown on the ACC network at 8 o'clock. Coach, if you could, a few comments about your team, and we'll open it for questions.
We went and didn't fare well at Duke at all. We came out and their front court had their way with us for 45 points and 22 rebounds. So we had to provide some much better resistance across the front line. And then we've got to do a better job of attacking the paint offensively. We only shot 9 free throws against Duke to their 34, so we've got to do a better job of attacking the paint. Going back and looking at the box score, we scored 24 points in the paint to their 22, and we were even on second chance points. So I thought we did a fairly good job, but we still got to get to the free throw line.
And we open for questions for Coach Manning.
Ladies and gentlemen, to register a question, press 1-4 on your telephone keypad. And our first question comes from the line of Bill Haas of Greensboro. Please proceed with your question.
Danny, how would you evaluate the progress that Doral Moore has made this season?
Well, I think Doral has definitely improved without question. He's at a point now where he's playing consistent extended minutes, and he's our best rim protector. He gives us the best presence in the paint defensively, and he's shooting the ball at a fairly high clip in terms of his efficiency when he is able to get post touches and offensive rebounds and really good angle to catch the ball inside.
How has he seems to have cut down on his fouls, and I'm sure that was a point of emphasis you've had in working with him. Do you like the way he's made progress in that area?
I do. I think, Doral has been, growing up at his size, his athletic ability. He was always, challenged to go block shots. And, now we want him to be a more efficient shot challenger. There are a lot of times you don't have to block the shot, but if you make them shoot a shot with a little more arc on it or a little bit tougher degree of difficulty, that in our book is the same as a block shot, altered shot. So he's doing a better job of walling up, is what we like to term it, where you're going straight up from floor to ceiling and making people shoot tough shots over him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Al Featherton of Access Sports. Please proceed with your question.
Good morning, Coach. I wanted to ask about, I know it's early in the season, not quite a third of the season yet, but the ACC, the home teams are winning at a historic rate. 3 of your losses have been on the road. Is there a reason that this year the home teams have been more successful than normal, or is it just too early?
You know what? To be honest with you, I really can't answer that question from the standpoint of I haven't watched all the games. You know, I'm watching us and I'm watching our opponents that we have. You know, the next upcoming game. But you know, I just think that just stands true to the type of teams and coaches and players we have in this league. You know, home court advantage means something, and it's tough to win on other people's home courts a lot of times.
How do you feel about the environment at Lawrence Joel? Do you guys have a superior home court environment, average?
I like our home court, you know. There's no question about that. I think when you know, for us, I think last year we were top 5 or top 6 in attendance. And so whenever you can get that type of at your home games with 15 teams in your league, that's pretty impressive. So, you know, it's always something where, you know, if we're playing better, it could always be a little bit better. But I think the general support that we get from our Demon Deacon faithful is very good. And, you know, we just got to continue to go out and give them reasons to continue to cheer and support us.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Christopher Idell of Herb FM Sports Radio, Baltimore. Please proceed.
Hi, Coach Manning. How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing great. You have a player on your roster from the state of Maryland, Crawford. Just talk about his development and how's he doing this season.
Well, you know, BC came in this freshman year. We put the ball in his hands, and he's been our starting point guard ever since. And, you know, he's continuing to evolve and grow. He's someone that likes to push the envelope in terms of trying to go make plays and being aggressive, and we want him to get paint touches for us and get guys shots. I thought the Duke game for him, he had 6 assists and 1 turnover, and that's a pretty good ratio for any guard. I mean, you know, he needs to have his numbers like that as we continue to move forward. But he's someone that we put a lot of pressure on him from day one to run a team, to score points, to distribute, to guard. And, you know, there's certainly room for improvement, but he's done a great job for us thus far. And, you know, when it's all said and done, when he walks away from Wake Forest, you know, he'll be one of the better guards in Wake Forest history according to his numbers.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck Thursday.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of David Hall of the Virginian-Pilot. Please proceed with your question.
Hey, Coach. Did you get a chance to watch your next 2 opponents play last night, NC State and Virginia?
I did not. I was locked in on NC State. Sorry. So.
Oh. Well, have you seen Virginia very much?
I have. You know, I mean, throughout the course of, you know, getting prepared for your games, you're always going to watch a team, you know, in your conference at some point in time. So, yeah, I've watched them play, and I probably don't have a great book on them right now, but, you know, I'm familiar with who they are and kind of what they like to do out there.
Just generally on defense, what makes them so effective?
Well, I think, you know, there's, you know, this team, not just this team, but, you know, all of Tony's teams for the most part, they do a great job of moving on the flight of the pass. And, you know, there are a lot of times when you're watching tape on them, the ball is being passed and all 5 of those guys are moving together, which is something that, you know, you don't see that much. I think I saw a clip of the Phoenix Suns one time when they were on defense and they got possession of the ball and they all started to run or to form their fast break, and everybody was taking a step at the same time. Well, that's just on the other side for them. Virginia, that's how they are defensively a lot of the times. And, you know, they make multiple efforts on the defensive end, and, you know, they have great awareness.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Coach, that takes time for today, and we'll hear from you same time again next week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Danny. We have with us now Louisville head basketball coach David Padgett, whose Cardinals will be at Notre Dame on Tuesday. Game shown nationally with an ESPN2 broadcast, and it's 7 o'clock tip. Coach, If you could, a few comments about your team, and we'll open for questions.
Well, coming off a very good week for us, quality road win, and then another good home win against Virginia Tech on Saturday. But the road doesn't get any easier. Obviously, going up to Notre Dame, a place where we've never won, so it's going to be a tall order, and they seem to be getting a little bit more healthy, probably right before they play us. So we got our hands full, but we're playing well. Hopefully, try to build on the momentum we gained from a couple good wins last week.
And we open it for questions.
Once again, to register a question, press 1-4 on your telephone keypad. And our next question comes from the line of Al Featherton of Access Sports. Please proceed with your question.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask about the second half comeback at Florida State. I mean, what changed between the first half when you guys were getting beat pretty soundly and the second half? You came back so
well,
strong.
we started rebounding the ball better. They did a good job there in the first half with about 6 minutes to go of getting to the offensive backboard, and they seemed to capitalize it every time they got an offensive rebound, and that's why we dug ourselves such a big hole. But we just came out and just tried to chip away at the lead. We knew there wasn't going to be a magical 10-point, 12-point possession to get us right back in the game. We just had to do it on the defensive end and try to just slowly chip away at it. And our guys hung tough. We got stops when we needed to, and did a good job of getting out on the break a little bit and scoring on the break, and then executing in the half court offensively.
The other thing is Dingendale had a great week and maybe the best game of his career, at least statistically. Can you talk about how he played, and has he taken a step up?
Yeah, he's obviously played very well the last two games. He's letting the game come to him. He's not trying to force things. He's trying to facilitate for others. He's trying to score when he's open and when he needs to. And, he's defending well. He's rebounding very, very well, which has been a big reason why we've been able to win these last two games. If he's getting double-figure rebounds, it's obviously going to help our team significantly. So, he's just continuing to get better, as a lot of our other guys are as well. So he's playing the way you would expect a junior of his caliber to be playing this time of year.
Coach, thank you very much.
Our next question comes from the line of Jeff Greer of the Louisville Courier-Journal. Please proceed with the question.
Hey, David. I'm curious how you guys have approached knowing, trying to scout Notre Dame, knowing that Matt Farrell could come back or he might not come back. How do you guys approach that as a staff?
Well, I think you just have to approach it as if he's going to play. The thing that's most impressive about Mike's teams throughout the years, not just this year, is no matter what their circumstances are, they seem to just respond. I mean, that's just how they are. Their guys respond through some adversity, no matter who's playing, who's not playing, and that kind of stuff. And obviously, going up there is always a tough task to try to win. So, you just have to prepare for both, and you just have to prepare for what they do as a team. They're a very, very well-coached team, a very disciplined team, and it's going to be a very tough road test for us. So we have to be ready to go on both ends of the floor.
The other thing I wanted to ask is, how do you, obviously you're still learning this process of picking out your rotations and making substitutions, all that stuff. How do you balance sort of the need to have the right guys on the floor with also knowing, especially with the younger guys, that they need time to sort of develop and get reps and all that?
Well, I think all of our, our younger guys that have gotten in the game the last couple of weeks, Darius and Malik, they've contributed and played well when they've been in there. Darius, I thought the other day against Virginia Tech in the first half, came in and got us back in the game. Did some things defensively, had a couple of great possessions offensively, and they're getting better. I see it in practice. I see it on the court in games, and they're continuing to improve. And from a rotation standpoint, you just kind of got to go with what's working. Having a guy like Ryan or Dwayne Sutton come off the bench, and even Honest, who's been coming off the bench. Those are three experienced older guys that have been through it. So, when you bring them in, you're not only trying to not lose anything, you're trying to actually gain something. And so just having that experience coming in off the bench is very valuable. And, depending on who you're playing, matchups obviously change things at times. But, just whoever kind of seems to be playing well, and you just kind of try to find that lineup and go with it as long as you can.
Thanks, David.
Our next question comes from the line of Bill Haas of Greensboro. Please proceed with your question.
Coach, since Ryan McMahon has returned from that rib injury, what has he added to your team? I mean, he's obviously come in. He's 9 for 16 on three-pointers in conference play, and he gives you a tremendous boost off a bench. But just tell me a little bit about what he brings to your lineup.
Well, obviously everybody knows about his ability to shoot the ball, but he's another very steady ball handler who can take some of the pressure off of Quentin, who can get in the lane and create plays for others. He's got a very good feel for the game. He understands when to make the right play, what the right play is, and he's an experienced player. I mean, this is his third year in the program. Didn't play a ton last year, but has been through it now for 3 years, and got stronger in the off season. And before he got hurt back in October, he was actually playing about as well as anybody on the team. And it just took him a while to kind of get back in rhythm and shake off the rust. But he's just a guy who's experienced. I mean, he's been through it. He's been through an ACC season, and he's played against some of the best teams and players in the country. So when he comes in the game, you know what you're going to get with him, and it usually seems to be a pretty positive and significant contribution.
You talked about his ball handling. I'm not sure what its assist-to-turnover ratio is, but just having that added ball handler in the lineup, and I suppose that they play together some too. What kind of an advantage does that give you?
Well, like I said, it just takes it gives us another playmaker on the court. Not that our other guys like Dang and VJ and those guys aren't playmakers, but it just, you can see when you watch Ryan, his feel for the game. He knows how to get in the lane. He plays at his pace. He knows how to throw, the pass to the open guy at the right time. And, just somebody who gives you a steady, calm presence on the court, which is, on the road in this league, the toughest league in the country, is something that you absolutely have to have.
Thank you very much.
Our next question comes from the line of Al Featherton of Access Sports. Please proceed with the question.
Yeah, Coach. I wanted to ask, it may be too early to determine that. We're not quite a third of the way into the season, but it's still the ACC home teams are winning at a historic pace so far. I'm just wondering, is there a reason you think home teams have been so successful in the ACC this year, or is it just an oddity of a short season so far?
Well, there's not many easy places to win on the road in the ACC, so I guess you could kind of start there. But there's not much tougher to do in college sports or sports in general than to get a road win in conference play. I mean, that's about as tough of a thing as there is to do, and I think it just goes to show not only how tough it is in some of these environments, but also how deep this league is this year. People will say, well, there's not really a bottom to this league. Yeah, and I say, yeah, that's true. I don't even really know if there's a middle. It just is very, very deep. Every team is capable of beating every team on any given night, and it'll be interesting to see if it stays that way throughout the rest of the year. But it just goes to show how much talent there is overall in this league.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay. Our next question is a follow-up from the line of Jeff Greer of the Louisville Courier-Journal. Please proceed.
Hi, David. I forgot to ask this from my buddy in Bloomington the other day, but he was curious from when you scouted Jajuan Morgan back when you guys played Indiana, what did you kind of notice about him? And then obviously when you guys played him, what did you kind of think of trying to prepare for him and how he kind of combated whatever you guys were doing?
Well, he was a player that we knew he was going to play with great energy, was going to attack the backboard, was a very good offensive rebounder. We knew we had to try to keep him off the backboard, and just very active around the rim. Just a guy that can step out and shoot threes, can score around the rim, can score in a variety of ways. So it's just a matchup problem. We tried to use our size as much as we could to try to bother him, but a player of his caliber, he's going to have success no matter what. So I can't remember exactly what he did against us, but I know he's been playing well for him as of late.
Any further questions?
There are no further questions at this time.
Okay, Coach, thanks for taking time being with us today. We'll hear from you again next week.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, David. We have with us now Syracuse head basketball coach Jim Boeheim, whose Orange will host Pittsburgh on Tuesday. The game's shown on the Regional Sports Network with a 9 o'clock tip. As we do each week, we'll go right to questions for Coach Boeheim.
Ladies and gentlemen, to register a question, press 1-4 on your telephone keypad. Once again, to register a question, press 1-4 on your telephone keypad. And our first question comes from the line of Al Featherton of Access Sports. Please proceed.
Coach, it's still early, but so far this year, the ACC home teams have been winning at a historic rate. I mean, it's always been tough to win on the road, but this year it's even more than past. I just wonder, is there any reason for that, or is it just a small sample size?
No, I think there's quality, a lot of good teams in the league, and it's tough to beat a good team at home. I think maybe some years there were weaker teams that couldn't win at home, but I think everybody's good enough to win at home now, and it's difficult when you go on the road to play.
You guys have had a pretty tough stretch to open ACC play. Can you I heard you quoted after the Florida State game as saying it's too early to be worried, that you still feel good about it. Can you
I'm
talk
worried
about
I'm worried when we start the season. So I'm always worried. But, you can't react to where you are. You have to react to where you're going. You have to try to play better. You can't care about where you are right now. You can't care about what happened yesterday. There's nothing you can do about that. You have to try to play better tomorrow. We played pretty well. We've done a lot of good things, but we haven't been able to close two games that we, obviously could have won, had the lead late in. And when that happens, everything's out the window. We did a lot of good things. We just got to play a little bit better and finish the game better.
Thank you, Coach.
Our next question comes from the line of Donna DeToda of Syracuse.com. Please proceed with the question.
Yeah, hey, Jim. I'm wondering, what do you like about a three-guard lineup going forward, and what are sort of some of the pitfalls of it?
Well, we handled the ball a little bit better. We put another guy in that can make shots. That's the very positive part of it. It hurts our defense, and it hurts our rebounding.
Okay, and were you encouraged by what you saw from Howard?
Howard did a good job. Howard did a really good job.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Our next question comes from the line of Tomer Langer of the Daily Orange. Please proceed with the question.
Jim, going back to that three-guard lineup, when you're running them out there, who do you want flanking that lineup? Is it O'Shea and a big man, or can we see O'Shea and Marek in that lineup as well?
Who's playing well at the time? It's going to probably be a big guy, and it's going to be either O'Shea or Matt or Marek, one of those guys.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question is a question from the line of Christopher Idell of Herb FM Sports Radio, Baltimore. Please proceed.
Hi, Chris Boeheim. How you doing?
Good.
Talk about Frank Howard. He's a kid from Maryland. A couple callers ago was talking about him. Just talk about his development and how's he doing this season.
Well, he's really shooting the ball great the last few games. He's taken his shooting to another level. I think he's been good on both ends of the court. He's really played well this year. He's taken charge of the team. He needs to, really just been turning the ball over too much, and that's something that he can correct, cut back his turnovers a little bit. Other than that, he's having a great year.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
And our next question comes from the line of James Suva of SB Nation. Please proceed with the question.
Hey, Coach. Just a quick question on Pascal. Do you see him getting more comfortable out there, and can you speak to his development a little bit?
Well, I think he's definitely getting better. I think his presence on defense is very important for us. I think he's getting better on the offensive end. I think we need to get him to move into better opportunities, offensive opportunities, where we can get him the ball in better situations. but he's definitely getting better. He's really important to our defense.
And has Allen really helped bring him along with that?
Yeah, I think Allen's done a great job with both him and Brahma. It's unfortunate that Brahma's knee is not anywhere near 100%, but he's trying to do what he can to help us.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck tomorrow.
Yep.
Our next question comes from the line of Bill Haas of Greensboro. Please proceed with your question.
Coach, I know there were an awful lot of points scored in the Florida State game, and the Tyus Battle played all 50 minutes, put up 37 points, and he's easily your leading scorer this year. What has been his progress, particularly as a scorer this season?
Well, he's a tremendous scorer. That's what he does. I think his second half, he played just about as well as you can play offensively. Florida State's a pretty good defensive team, and he just was tremendous. He hit a 3 at the buzzer to get us into overtime and got us the lead in overtime. He's had a really good offensive year, and Florida State had a tremendous game.
He also had no assists and 5 turnovers. Is that a concern?
Yeah, we'd like him to not turn it over. We're turned over a little bit too much as a team, and he's such a good scorer. We're looking for some opportunities where he can get the ball to other people, but he doesn't have anybody to throw the ball to on the perimeter that shoots it, and everybody gets around the basket when he drives. So it's difficult to get the ball to somebody in the lane like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Al Featherton of Access Sports. Please proceed.
I know because of the overtime games, you got 2 starters that are averaging more than 40 minutes a game in ACC play. I think Frank Howard would if he hadn't filed out so early the other day.
Yes, he would have.
So, is that a concern, or are you worried about playing your guys that many minutes?
I don't. It's the only way we can win. And they've played well at end of games, even though they're playing the whole game. So, again, I don't like playing guys that many minutes, but most of the best players in this league play about 36 minutes. They're playing a little bit more than that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions for Coach Boeheim?
No further questions at this time.
Okay, Jim, thanks for taking time being with us today. We'll hear from you again next week. All right, do we have Coach Williams on?
Yes.
Okay. We have with us now North Carolina head basketball coach Roy Williams, whose Tar Heels will host Clemson on Tuesday. The game's shown on the Regional Sports Network with a 7 o'clock tip. Coach, if you could, a few comments about your team, then open for questions.
Well, we need to play a heck of a lot better than we did Saturday at South Bend. I thought Mike Brey's club just played so much better than we did, and we were very lucky to win. Very, very lucky. And Clemson's coming in and playing really, really good basketball, beating some really good teams, and almost upset State at State, and probably the best team Brad's had in a few years for sure. And we've got to play a heck of a lot better, and so I'll answer anything you got.
We'll open for questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, to register a question, press 1-4 on your telephone keypad. And our first question comes from the line of Mike Barber of the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Please proceed with your question.
Hey, Roy, you were talking last week a little bit about Kenny Williams and the things he's come back from, the surgeries and whatnot. Personality-wise, what has Kenny been like to coach?
He's just a wonderful kid. He's got a great personality, a great smile, always comes every day, ready to work, trying to get better, puts in all the work before practice in the training room, and just done a great job in his rehab over the last 2 years when he did have those surgeries. He's really a pleasure to coach and a pleasure to have around, and he's having a pretty doggone good year too, but he's just a great, great kid.
And obviously, he could have gone some smaller places maybe and been the foot. How has he bought into kind of what his role is and what your vision is for him at Carolina?
Okay, you cut out when you said something about smaller school, but he's been great for us. I mean, like I say, he's had 3 knee surgeries since he came here. He's our best perimeter defender. He's shot the ball really, really well this year, and I think he's one of the elite players on our team, and we just need him to stay healthy. But he's been really important to us, and every teammate just loves him to death. And I think he chose the challenge to try to come and then see if he could play here, and so far he's done a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Mark Berman of the Roanoke Times. Please proceed with your question.
Good morning. I want to ask you about Luke May. Obviously, he's been very impactful for you this season. I was wondering, did you see this coming either because of the work he did in the off season or how he finished last season? Did you kind of see you kind of have a hunch he was going to have this kind of a year?
Well, Marquis just had a great year. He had a spell of 3 or 4 games in there where he didn't play as well, but other than that stretch, he's been off the charts. And he worked exceptionally hard his freshman year and after his freshman year, and was a very good player for us last year and extremely important in certain games. He had 15 rebounds against Florida State and a double-double against Butler and a game winner against Kentucky in the regional final. And so, yeah, we saw that some things coming, but, he's certainly also exceeded what you could have anticipated from what his first 2 years were like, but I think that's just a direct credit to how much work he's put in off season, how focused he's been on his work, and how focused he has been on making his body so much better. So it's just a lot of sweat that's gone into it, and he deserves all the nice things people are saying about him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next question comes from the line of Christopher Heidel of Herb FM Sports Radio, Baltimore. Please proceed.
Hi, Coach Williams. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there this morning. I hope you are.
I hope you're feeling better. You sound a lot better today than last week.
Oh, gosh, it's a difference in night and day. I appreciate it.
Yeah, there's a kid on Clemson from Maryland from the state of Maryland named Reed, Marquis Reed. What type of player is he on the Clemson squad?
Well, he's a scorer who can really shoot the ball, too. He doesn't have to stand out there at the three-point line because he can take it to the basket. But he's having a big-time year for them. Is a kid that helped them and played well for them last year, too. But he's averaging, I'm going to guess, I don't have their stats here in front of me, but like 15 or 16 points a game. But he really is a big-time shooter, but also can take the ball to the basket and finish plays, too. So he's extremely important to them and his scoring and what he does for them.
And a follow-up, just talk about Clemson. They seem like they're improving every year now, so they're getting really good now. They're in the top 25. Just talk about Brad and his development as a coach with Clemson.
Mm-hmm. Well, Brad's always been a really good coach, and he hasn't had quite as much material some of those years as he has right now. He's got 5 guys that he can put on the floor that can all score. And Sheldon Mitchell has a guy who thinks pass first. Elijah Thomas can score, but he also rebounds and can block shots. So he's got the full picture this year, and they're buying into what Brad wants them to do more on the defensive end. And he's, like I say, he's always been a good coach. He's probably been known more for his club's play on the defensive end of the floor. And now these guys are buying into it, and they have that ability to score as well. So I think it's the best team he's had in quite a while.
All right, I hope you have a good week this week.
Thank you very much.
Our next question comes from the line of Al Featherton of Access Sports. Please proceed.
Good morning, Coach. I wanted to ask about Cameron Johnson since he's finally been able to get in the lineup. He's contributed, but he hasn't really found the three-point shot that he had in the past. Not yet. Is that just a factor of, working in and getting to play more until he finds his rhythm, or is there something else going on?
Well, I think that's probably it, Al, and you're exactly right. The way you said it's not yet, because he shot the ball extremely well in practice. When he gets an elbow underneath it and starts to let it go, I think it's going in. He's been a young man who has worked really, really hard. His body has just been so banged up since the first day he came on campus, it seemed like, and he's had to fight through a lot of nagging injuries and a knee injury that was severe enough to have surgery. He's had hip problems, he's had knee problems, he's had shoulder problems, then hip problems that he had in the past, and then added the knee to it this year. But I think the two most significant things is, one, he's finally starting to get healthier, and two, just take some time to get used to how we play and get used to his teammates. But he's had some times during practice that he's making a bunch of shots, and we look forward to that day coming into games too.
And can you talk about your freshman big men in terms of their development? Are you happy with the way they're coming along, or is there something more you'd like to see?
Well, there's definitely more that you'd like to see, and do I like some of the things they're doing? Yes, but the biggest thing that we've got to get better at is getting some help from our big guys in our interior defense. We've got to be able to protect the rim better than we're doing it, and those guys, I think Garrison's more a position guy, and Sterling has the length that he can do some things, so we do expect them to get better, and they want to get better, and they're the kind of kids you like to coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Al.
Our next question comes from the line of Bill Haas of Greensboro. Please proceed.
Coach, I know that Seventh Woods has been injured. Can you give us an update on his status?
Well, it's just it's a process he's going through, and we've got to wait till he gets to be where he's pain-free, and you can watch his symptoms, and you can take all the pictures you want, and but he's got to get to the point where he's pain-free, and he's not there. And it's going to be something I think we'll know more, but it's not going to be today nor tomorrow. It's going to take time, and we understand that, and he understands that. And they've released him to start shooting some, but not a lot at that. And so he's still quite a bit of ways from being ready to play, but it's just a process that you have to go through.
Can he get back this year, or is it possible he can wind up redshirting?
Well, it's our hope that he'll get back this year, but that's something that we just have to wait and see. If he comes in tomorrow and they say he's great, and I won't play him tomorrow night by any means, but the foot's got to keep coming along.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill.
Our next question comes from the line of David Teal of Daily Press. Please proceed.
Roy, you mentioned that you thought that Notre Dame actually deserved to win the other day. It seems counterintuitive that a squad would lose the ACC second leading rebounder and then out-rebound your group by 8, and they've out-rebounded all but one of their opponents since Colson got hurt. In preparing for Notre Dame and then watching your game against them, how have they managed to do what seems illogical?
Well, it may seem illogical, but it's what you do in sports. I mean, if you're not hitting your driver very well, you better be able to scramble. If you're not scrambling well, you better be able to hit the ball on the green and not have to scramble. And so in basketball, if you lose your two leading scorers, then what you want to do is you want to get higher percentage shots for everybody else and get more of them. And you want to cut down on the effectiveness of the other team's shooting, so you play better defense. And I think that's one thing that Mike's done with the club, is he's gotten them to believe that if they defend better and they rebound better, they'll have a better chance to win games. And I think that's what he's done, and I think they bought into it. And it was a phenomenal performance by them on the backboards on Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Sam Evers of the Rocky Mount Telegram. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. Sorry to piggyback off that other question, but just as far as Seventh Woods goes, would you mind just telling me a little about his mindset right now? I imagine there must be some frustration for him.
Well, Sam, I think you're exactly right. I think he's been frustrated because he hasn't been healthy in 2 years. And he's had a lot of difficult things that have gotten tough for him. I thought in the summer that he was really coming along, and his shot was where he was working on his shot. His shot was getting better, and he was starting to feel like the old Seventh again. Early in our practices, when Cam Johnson got hurt, it was because of an outstanding play that Seventh came out of nowhere and made an unbelievable block. And so he had his moments. But I think any time that you a very good player who's had a lot of success, and then all of a sudden your body is just not cooperating, that does get frustrating, and I think that's where 7th is. But he also knows he's just got to keep working at it, and he's had a great attitude and work ethic in the trainer's room and in the weight room, trying to get his body back where he wants it to be.
Right, and he's obviously an interesting character just because he had such a high profile. Do you guys still kind of feel like he's going to eventually get back to that player that you thought he could be?
Well, no one here at North Carolina has seen the real 7th Woods yet. Roy Williams has seen him, and I'm hoping that everybody else gets a chance to see him too.
Yeah, gotcha. Thanks, Coach.
Okay.
Any further questions for Coach Williams?
There are no further questions at this time.
Okay, Roy, thanks for taking time being with us today, and since you play next Monday, we'll hear from you in 2 weeks.
Hey, that's better news than I thought I was going to get. Thanks, guys. Everybody have a good
day. Take care, Roy.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too. And we will hold now for Virginia Tech head coach Buzz Williams.
And Mr. Williams is now connected.
Hello.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, to register a question, press 1-4 on your telephone keypad. And our first question comes from the line of Al Featherton. Please proceed with your question.
Hey, Coach, I just want to ask, it's early in the season, but already home teams are winning at a historic pace in the ACC. It's always been tough to win on the road, but this year it's even tougher than normal. Is there a reason for that?
I don't know if there's a statistical reason. I do think the margin in the 5 games we played and in the ones that I've watched, it seems like the margin is even smaller than it's been during my tenure in the ACC. And I don't know if that necessarily is evidence on why home teams are winning at a higher rate. But as I said before the season, ACC season started, I think it'll end up being the most volatile it's been since I've been in the league for sure. And I just think it's the margin is even smaller.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Mike Barber of the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Please proceed.
Oh, hey, Buzz. I'm curious, when you talk about KJ, he grew up, watching his dad play some overseas. Do you see what we'd call a European influence in his game? And is that something you've embraced or something you've had to change?
Yeah, good question, Barber. I think it speaks, number one, to KJ's basketball IQ. Prior to ever meeting KJ, his IQ was off the charts, not just specific to his position, but specific to the game, not just to offense, but to both ends of the floor. As a redshirt sophomore, he has an uncanny ability to understand time, score, momentum. He understands players. He understands scouting reports. His skill set is reflective of, I don't necessarily want to categorize it as European, but obviously he can pass, dribble, and shoot. He feels comfortable anywhere on the floor. I do think that that's part of how he was raised. Obviously he's bigger than both of his parents, but his skill allows him to do multiple things. I don't know that we've done a great job. Maybe in the last 10 days we have.
it's been hard for us with the foul trouble he has been a part of throughout the season for us to completely allow him some of the versatility that not only helps him, but I think it helps us. But I think in the last 10 days, I think we've been able to do better with that because 2 out of those 3 games, he didn't have foul trouble. And so we need to continue to expand that, not only for him, but also for our team.
Yeah, you just hit on my follow-up, which was how different do you play when he's on the floor, and how hard is it to kind of not know because he could pick up 2 quick ones, and all of a sudden that's not really an option?
Well, I just need to do a better job. That's at the core of it. That would be the answer. Is I have to do a better job of when K's in this, when K's not in this. Like he was in foul trouble at Wake, and if you look at the numbers, we were better when he wasn't in the game than we were when he was in the game. But if you look at versus Pitt or versus Louisville or at Louisville, he played high minutes and was very productive. His PER numbers, the numbers that we study, are very good. But all of that is so much like any other good player is dictated on. We need to be able to play him when we want to play him, which obviously is a lot. And I need to do a better job when he's in, however long that is. This is what we're doing on both ends of the floor. And when he's not in, this is what we're doing on both ends of the floor, so that maybe there's more comfort, not by me, but also by our team, regardless of whether he's playing or not.
Great. Thank you, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Our next question comes from the line of Mark Berman of the Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Good afternoon. I was just curious, now that you have 5 conference games under your belt, has league play kind of revealed, do you find yourselves missing any certain something that Zach or Seth Allen or even Ty gave you last year, more so than a non-league play showed?
Oh, yeah, we miss all 3 of those guys. We miss them no matter who we're playing or where we're playing. I think those are 3 good players. Seth could make a play when there wasn't a play to be made. Zach, even though he didn't look like it, he made really big plays that covered up a lot of mistakes for us. And then obviously statistically, Ty may go down as one of the better shooters in Tech history before his career is over. Having said that, that's just part of it, right? I think most coaches today would say they miss the guys that are not playing, whether they were seniors or guys they were counting on that were hurt. So I don't think that through 5 games specific to those 3 kids, my answer would be any different if you would have asked it prior to league play. Those are 3 good players. So if you're asking me, would you like them to be on your team? The answer is always yes.
Thank you. Our next question comes from the line of Norm Wood of Daily Press. Please proceed.
Hey, Buzz. A couple more KJ questions. He looks like this month he's really expanded his shooting range, and he looks like he can stroke it from out there a little bit at times. Is that something that you've encouraged, or is that something that he's kind of latched on to on his own, kind of joined this three-point shooting parade you guys have?
I think that he's always been able to shoot, Norm. I think we've tried to do some different things that allow him more opportunities to shoot. What I would say is it's a little bit probably counterintuitive than what you think. We almost kind of want him out there as if that's what we're trying to do, so that it opens up driving angles for us non-KJ players to get fouled. I think it makes the game easier for the KJ's teammates than it does KJ's more comfortable playing on the perimeter. KJ's always been comfortable on the perimeter. It's just as this is kind of began to flesh itself out, how can we get more opportunities for KJ on the perimeter, not exclusively for him, even though some of that will be a result of it, but how can we get more opportunities where the lane is open and or, in essence, we've got all 5 of our guys above the free throw line so that there are opportunities and creases to drive.
Okay. Our next question comes from the line of Al Featherton of Access Sports. Please proceed.
I'm sorry. I was trying to line up for the next coach. I apologize. I asked my question.
Okay, we're good. Any further questions for Coach Williams?
We have one that just queued up again. It's a follow-up from the line of Mr. Norm Wood of Daily Press. Please proceed.
Yeah, one more on KJ. Is he a guy that maybe, because he expends so much energy on the offensive end, he might struggle a little bit on the defensive end, and you ask him to do so much on that end, and with the offensive boards that he gets, I didn't know if maybe he struggles a bit on the defensive end, or maybe you've tapped into some things that maybe he can get better on that side.
I actually think, Norm, he's a better defender than he is an offensive player. I think where we have to get better collectively as a team is our team needs to be better defensively. Some of KJ's fouls are not specific to KJ. It's KJ trying to cover up some of the issues that our perimeter players have caused. And so it's not defensively, it's for sure not KJ. It's for sure KJ and all of us combined, with me being at the front of the list, on we have to get better. You know, our OER at Louisville was really good. The issue was our turnover rate. If we don't turn it over, I anticipate that our OER is probably maybe the best we'd had all year. The problem was our DER, and we forced them into a lot of turnovers, but on the time they didn't turn it over, we just didn't do a good enough job getting stops. I mean, KJ played 37 minutes, so those fouls are not specific all the time to KJ or his issues. Those fouls are his issues and our issues. So I think that's the thing that we have to figure out how to address this. As much as anything, obviously turnover rate is a big part of it, but it's the opponent offensive rebounding percentage. So much of that, Norm, as you know, is we're just in a bad position to rebound. Yes, we're not tall, but we've never been tall. Tall has just a portion to do with defensive rebounding. So we got to get better as a team defensively for sure.
Okay, Coach, thanks for taking time being with us today. And since you play next Monday, we'll hear from you again in 2 weeks. We have with us now Notre Dame head basketball coach Mike Brey, whose Irish will host Louisville on Tuesday. The game shown nationally on ESPN2 with a 7 o'clock tip. Coach, if you could, a few comments about your team. We'll for questions.
Well, I am really proud of this group. You know, given our injury situation, our remaining guys have really competed and given us a chance to win. And, you know, I love that we're 3-2 in the league. Our hope, Matt Farrell will practice. He did a little bit yesterday, more today, and be a game-time decision tomorrow night. And it's time to have him back. We need that now, so hopefully we can get to that tomorrow night.
And we open it for questions for Coach Brey.
Ladies and gentlemen, to register a question, press 1-4 on your telephone keypad. And our first question comes from the line of Tom Noy of the South Bend Tribune. Please proceed with the question.
Hey, Mike, I know Matt did a little yesterday, but of what he did that you saw from him, what did you see that said, you know what, he's on the right track?
Yeah, no, I think I feel good about it. I think we're trending the right way. Today will be more live and transition stuff, but you know, I am hopeful that we can get him in there. We need him, and I know he is really ready. He wanted to really play on Saturday. That's the competitor in him, but he had not gone through any practice, and I just don't want to have a setback. So I think we're trending the right way.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Our next question comes from the line of Christopher Heidel of the Herb FM Sports Radio Baltimore. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach Mike, how you doing?
Good to talk to you again, buddy. How you?
Doing good. Tough game there on Saturday against
against North Carolina, at the last couple minutes. How can you use that as a teaching method for you guys to teach your kids for later in the season?
Yeah, I think I'm so proud of our group. It's heartbreaking to lose the way we did, and I think our group, they're pretty mature. They'll regroup and want to play, and maybe play with a little more of an edge, that they're a little bit pissed off about we couldn't finish it. But I'd love to see us bounce back tomorrow. I'd love to see us have Matt Farrell in the lineup, because I think that would give us not only a really good player on the floor, but it'll give us an emotional lift if we could get him back tomorrow night.
And I was also looking at the roster. You have a kid from Baltimore named Harvey, the freshman. How's his development going for his first year there?
Good. He's a Bowie, Maryland kid, right down the road from Baltimore, but he has been starting since Bonzi's injury, and I'm very pleased with what he's given us. He's rebounding the ball. He defends well for a young guy. He's not shot it as well as he's capable of, but I think that will come. He is getting more confident and comfortable.
Well, good luck tomorrow night against Louisville.
Thank you, sir.
Our next question is from the line of Bill Haas of Greensboro. Please proceed.
Mike, with those two guys out of the lineup for a couple of games, 3 games, at least 4 for Bonzi now, what adjustments have you made in the way you play?
Yeah, what we've really tried to do is while they were both out, we were playing 2 bigs and rotating the 4 big guys that we have, keeping them fresh, and we really wanted to get on the backboard, and we've achieved that. I think we've only been out-rebounded 1 game, the Georgia Tech game in Atlanta, and really pound the offensive board, because we need second shots since there's a lot of scoring out of the lineup with Farrell and Colson down. And our guys have really done that. I think our half-court defense and our rebounding has put us at 3 and 2, because we're not the scoring machine that maybe we've been in the past, or certainly without those 2 guys. So I've been very, very pleased with our defending and our rebounding on both ends.
Obviously, the situation has been such that everybody's had to step up, but is there one game, one player in particular that has caught your eye in the way that he's responded to the way things are and really come through?
Well, I think T.J. Gibbs has just been fabulous. The night that Matt got hurt with about 6 minutes to go in the NC State game, he slid over to handling the ball, and he calmed the coach down, the building down. It was just a very smooth transition to no problem, I'll run this team now. So I think, he's been great there. And then I can't say enough about what Pfluger and I think Martin Gebbin's playing as well as any big guy in the league. And we certainly need more of them on that front line now with Bonzi out.
Thank you.
Yep.
Our next question comes from the line of David Teal of Daily Press. Please proceed with the question.
Mike, you mentioned the rebounding. It just seems so counterintuitive that you'd lose the second leading rebounder in the league and then, hammer Syracuse on the boards. Carolina's traditionally one of the best rebounding teams in the country, and you're +8 in that game. How have you gone about this?
Yeah, I think I give Martin Gebbin a lot of credit that he has just known that he's got to kind of morph into Bonzi, and he has been rebounding at the Bonzi-Colson clip. He's just rotated in there smoothly, and he's getting double-figure rebounds since Bonzi has been out. And when we play those other, 3 big guys, and especially play 2 together, with Mooney, Burns, and Torres, we can really get up on the backboard. The other thing that helps us is DJ Harvey on the floor for extended minutes, as your 3-man. And, he is really a very natural. He had 8 rebounds. I think he had 9 at Syracuse. He had 8 Saturday. He's another athlete that gets up on the backboard. And so that's that's the thing we've really hung our hat on, keeping it to one and done, which we did a good job against, everybody we've played since, and then getting some second shots. We had a number of offensive rebounds against Carolina, which kept us in it. It gave us other chances because we're not making that first shot as much with Colson and Farrell out of the lineup. The first shot ain't going down as much, so let's go get it.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Dave.
Our next question comes from the line of Al Featherton of Access Sports. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. I
Al.
wanted to ask, it's always been tough to win on the road in the ACC, but home teams are winning at a historic rate so far this year. I know it's not quite a third of the season, but is there any reason why home teams should have a more significant edge than they've always had?
That's really interesting you say that, and I did not know that it is way above the statistical norm. I mean, that's interesting. I can't really, Al, put my finger on anything on why it's more this year than last year. Let's blame it on officiating. Oh, no, we can't do that. I'm just kidding. Al, I don't know if I can answer that. I'll say this, I'm looking at our situation. We have been we've always been pretty good at home, but I feel this group is even more comfortable, especially offensively, playing well here. We're scoring the ball better here than we do on the road, even with Farrell and Colson out. And so I know that's helped us. We've found a better offensive rhythm here.
Okay, thank you very much, Coach.
Yep.
Any further questions for Coach Brey?
There are no further questions at this time.
Okay, Mike, that takes care of
Thank
it today.
you.
Thanks for with us. See ya. And that concludes today's basketball teleconference. Thank you for taking part.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the conference call for today. We thank you for your participation and ask you please disconnect your lines.